Meow, bitch!
That was weird. You know, the musical Cats gets shat on quite a lot. People who aren't into musical theatre shit on it because it's weird and creepy, and people who do like musical theatre shit on it because it's weird and creepy. Regardless of people's views on it, there's no denying that Cats is a staple of theatre and is probably one of the biggest and most recognisable musicals in history. Cats has grown on me a lot over the years. I think sometimes we forget in different art mediums that something completely different and unexpected can be just as fulfilling. But Cats has no plot, I hear you holler. Yeah, well, it does have a plot, it's just not the main focus. Circuses don't really have lots of plots either, but I don't see you banging on Cirque du Soleil's door about it. Cats brings to life the poems of T.S. Eliot through music and dance, and that's its purpose. It's to show you these characters and their personality. It's not going to change your life, but it might change what you think a piece of entertainment needs to be. That's why I was so incredibly nervous when I found out this film was being made. There seems to be a thought that because something found a success in one art form, it will definitely find the same success as a completely different one. And that couldn't be further from the truth. That's why you don't see a lot of magicians get their own movies, or why Amy Schumer only got one Netflix series. It's because things sometimes only work in a very specific setup. However, I was optimistic. 1998, we saw a Cats movie, and it really captured the essence of the show. It was just a high-budget production of the show, but maybe this new film, it'll just be an even bigger budget production of the show with even more fun costumes and sets and music and dance. So, you know, maybe it'll be even better.
Here we go!
I was wrong. Kind of. I think we need to start with the obvious. They look like horrible little mutant rat creatures. I think the fact that this is how they decided to show the Cats shows straight away that they don't understand what made the show a success in the first place. Costume, makeup, hair are massive theatre elements, and the ones that Cats are kind of the most famous for. So much so that the original Broadway production won a Tony Award for Best Costume in 1983. So what makes this an artistic, award-winning innovation, and this a hellish LSD nightmare? I'm gonna tell you something. It's gonna shock you. They're not actually cats. They're actors. What? Turns out that audiences don't need to think something is real life to get invested into it. When you see the stage show, you're not under any illusion that these are your friendly alley cats that have jumped up on stage to sing and dance for you. You are fully aware that these are actors playing these characters, and that's fine. That's fine. That's what Cats is. It's people portraying the characters that T.S. Eliot has created, these characters being exaggerations of the human traits he saw in different cats. The 2019 movie, for some reason, is trying to convince you that these are real cats. We have the latest in CGI fur technology. That means that it can imitate the fur of a real-life cat. That's great, but you don't have the technology to get an actor's tap dance to imitate that of a real cat's tap dance, because guess what? Cats don't dance! There is no universe where anyone would believe that these are real cats, and that's why the costume and the makeup is pivotal to creating the universe that we're setting this show in. And that's why, by making these CGI bodies and faces, they've essentially taken like a third of the art that made the show successful and just dunked it in the trash. They had the Mona Lisa in their hand and they ripped off her forehead, because why not? We can CGI it on later. Not only that, but the costume and makeup are a way that they develop the characters further. I think makeup designer Karen says it best.
It's quite a difficult one because they're meant to be felines, but they're also meant to be humans. So the makeup has got to be strong enough for the theatre to actually be able to be seen everywhere in the theatre, but not be too strong so that it actually masks out the character of the humans themselves.
Why did she say it like that? Theatre. Theatre. For the theatre. What do you see when you look at the stage production? You see different colours, different textures, different shapes and sizes. All cats look different except for the ones that look the same, because they're meant to look the same because that's part of their character. What do you see when you look at the film? We see raw chickens going through different stages of rotting. On stage, because they're obviously wearing costumes, it's not weird to see them wearing like a hat or a vest. That makes sense within the universe. But in the movie, the majority of them are nude? Some of them wear coats and jackets. It's startling to look at, and I don't want to think too much about it. But I have to, because they force me to. Does someone in the world make tiny little hats and coats for cats here? I don't get it. The CGI also makes it look as though the actors aren't actually there. They had a massive budget to build massive sets to make everything look cat scale like, and so they could have the actors look as though they're in the size of the cats and make it more real life. But then they added a CGI layer over all the actors, so it looks like they could have just been green screened in anyway. Overall, in case I haven't made it clear right now, they look terrible. But once you get accustomed to it, how is the rest of the film? The word that comes to mind is wild. I was confused. I screamed. I cried. I gagged several times for good and for bad. But most importantly, I was incredibly entertained the entire time. I'm going to go through it now and try and make sense of what I saw. So, they changed the plot by, instead of having the cats introduce themselves to us, the audience, which is what they do in the theatre,
Everywhere in the theatre.
they have Victoria be kind of a new cat. Victoria, as if I'm just gonna like fucking name cats. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, that one. No one's obsessed with cats with me. The white cat, the white cat, is the main character, and she's just been abandoned, and they introduce all the cats to her instead of to us. Which works, I think. It makes the plot a lot more clearer as well. They add in some lines of dialogue to make it a lot more obvious what's going on. And I think that's fine. I think it works. I'm not mad about it. So, as I said, it starts with Victoria getting abandoned by her human owner? Humans look like humans in this film. They just own tiny furry versions of themselves as pets. You know, sometimes when a universe is already questionable, it's best to leave a couple more things to the imagination. You know, it's like in Cars 2, there's a Cars Pope. So what? There's a car Jesus that got car crucified on a car cross for our car sins. Sometimes it's best to just leave some questions unanswered, and how humans look in the Cats universe is one of those questions. Of course, you can't have cats without music. And let me tell you, the music, it's lit, my dudes. With the exception of one song, I think they do justice to the entire score. It's on the whole sung very well, and to be perfectly honest, as confused as I was when the house beat started in Jellicle songs for Jellicle Cats, it fucking slapped. So the music is great, but how's the other thing Cats is also really well known for? The dancing. It is, after all, a dance show.
That's the exciting thing about the show. It won't be a jazz show, it won't be a balletic show, it won't be a modern dance show, it will be all these things, we hope, and also something that we've never done before. It's an adventure.
In all honesty, I don't actually remember there being a lot of dancing. Except for the ball scene where the cats dance as part of the plot, but that's kind of like, you can't really get around it. I was trying to work it out because it's like, I've seen clips of people dancing. They had the Hamilton choreographers, so obviously there's dancing, but I actually don't remember a lot of it, apart from like some hip-hop cats and Victoria when she does that. She doesn't do that. It's a lot more graceful. And I realised the stage show is set in one location. It's set in the junkyard, and the cats tell their stories through dancing. In the film, because they have such a massive budget, they just take you to the locations and show you the events that the cats are describing. I guess show don't tell is a mantra in storytelling, but there was an artistry in the way that the stories were told through the dancing that's just kind of completely lost in the film because we just see it happen. I think the best example of this is Mungo Jerry and Rumpel Teaser. I'm such a loser. How do I... oh, fuck. So there are two cat burglars. And in every live production, they do this elaborate, synchronized, choreographed routine showing how they like steal stuff from the buildings. It's very slick and graceful. It also has a really sick double cartwheel at the end, which is like my life ambition to do. In the film, you just see them rob houses. Like you just see them go into the house and start stealing stuff, you know. There's some dancing, I guess, but it's more just like when you hear a dining room crash and they push something over to make it crash, which is, you know, that's what it says on the tin, I guess. This is kind of the case for a lot of the numbers. You just see what they're saying, so there's no dancing. Like, Bustopher Jones is a fat cat, so he just walks around eating stuff the whole number. Mr. Mistopheles is a magician cat, so he just does magic tricks the whole number. I guess it gives us more variation in what we're seeing, but at the same time, it's a dance show, and I just am surprised by the lack of dancing, except for Skimbleshanks. That bitch tap dances so hard, he ascends into the air and explodes into dust. I'm not joking. Don't get me wrong, there is dancing. It's just never the focus of anything, really. It's always they're moving from place to place, and the camera angles change so much that you never actually get to see a full dance routine. They're just using different set pieces or different places, and they're just going from place to place that you never actually get to see a full dance, apart from the one scene. And even then, it kind of turns into a dance circle with them pushing one cat in the middle and working it out. As a fan of cats, I was disappointed by the lack of cat dancing. So the first cat we meet, who's a contestant for the Jellicle Ball, is Jenny Anydots. Watching the scene is what I imagine having a stroke feels like. Everything is vaguely familiar, but you can't decipher what's going on. It starts with Rebel Wilson spreading her legs and scratching her cat crotch vigorously. She's really clumsy for some reason, which is really weird because cats are famously not. It must be hard to fall over constantly when your species has an inbuilt instinct to land on their feet, but whatever. The thing that gets me the most about the character that Rebel Wilson is playing is that it has an obvious personality. It seems really lazy and like it does nothing, but then when its owners go to sleep, it's actually super organized. It runs the house essentially, like it's a secret double life type thing. It's there in the lyrics that she's singing. It's the poem, but yet we get this like quirky, weird, whoa, I fell over, oh, I put my hand in a mousetrap, whoopsie-doo. It's always said that the show has no plot because it focuses mainly on the characters, so why would we purposely just like ignore the character? There's nothing else you could really be focusing on. What, the costumes? You obviously weren't focusing on that. How did we get to the position where Rebel Wilson was playing Rebel Wilson? You know, in school productions, when there's that one kid who always gets like the character roles because they're really charismatic, but they don't know how to stop, and so they're always suggesting things to the director, and the director doesn't really know how to control him, and he's like, oh, it'll be really funny if I do this, and the director's like, sure, whatever, go ahead, and next thing you know, Monsieur Thénardier is flossing in the middle of One Day More. That's what I felt like happened in this show. This is also the song which is the exception to the music being done really well. Most of the characters, their song about them is sung by multiple people kind of narrating their story, and they'll join in every so often. But in the show, they have the celebrities kind of sing their own songs themselves, which is fine. And this isn't me shitting on Rebel Wilson singing, it's the arrangement of the song that is not good. The original song, the chorus is sung in 3-part harmony to kind of reflect the style of the music they're going for. In the film, they just have Rebel Wilson sing it herself, and it sounds nowhere near as good as the original.
When the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the Gumby Cat's work is but hardly begun. And when all the families are dead and asleep,
when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the Gumby Cat's work is but hardly begun. And when all the families...
As this is the only song I feel like is done kind of bad, I'm not going to harp on it too much. I just think sometimes filmmakers need to remember that when they're adapting a piece of work, sometimes there was a reason it was done in the original way, and you shouldn't just be like, oh, whatever, Rebel, you be so silly. The singing and the lack of regard to T.S. Eliot's character is not the worst thing in the number. It gets worse. Jenny Anydots tells how she's actually been teaching the rats to play music, and if you thought the cats looked bad in this, wait until you see the Chernobyl fallout disasters that are the rats. She pulls back a curtain to reveal what I can only describe as proof that there is no God. Horrible little chubby rat bodies with children's faces like morphed onto them start like scatting, and they kept coming back. Throughout the film, the rats would return. It was horrible. I want Tom Hooper tried for war crimes. And it just gets worse. This number has a very famous costume change to show her going from the lazy cat to like the worker cat, I guess. She usually starts the number in a big, massive fur padded coat that she lazes around in, but then when it gets to kind of the dance break, she rips it off to reveal a flapper style dress to go with the music and show that she's lively and active. So when I saw Rebel Wilson wasn't wearing a big padded dress, to begin with I was like, oh, I guess they've cut the costume change. No. Instead, what she does is she unzips her flesh like a fucking Slitheen to reveal another flesh leotard with a vest on top underneath. I have to move on. I'm gonna lose my mind. Rum Tum Tugger is Jason Derulo, and he's fit. If I had to marry a cat in the cat world, it would be Rum Tum Tugger. Next cat. So then we meet Buster Jones, played by To be fair, he is ideal celebrity casting for the role, and he does it fine. However, in the same way Rebel Wilson just played Rebel Wilson, just plays. There's a bit where they're trying to launch him in the air with a seesaw type thing, but because he's so fat, it doesn't work. It would have been funny if they just stopped for a beat and was like, well, that didn't work, and then moved on, maybe. I don't know, I'm not a comedy god. It needed to just be something, a quick joke, a quick remark. But instead, what we got was this. Pretty sure I can remember it word for word because it was so traumatizing and painful to listen to. So, seesaw doesn't go up, music stops, and he goes, well, obviously that's not going to work. Look at the size of you, look at the size of me. Obviously, this isn't going to happen. That's what I say to you. Like, we're gonna need a couple more cats to jump on this, aren't we? If we're gonna lift up. You know I'm insecure about my weight. Like, I know I need to work on my body, but this is just too much. Go on, shut up. Oh my god. Just because you're talking doesn't mean you're funny. Also, how can you say you're insecure about your weight when you've just sung a song about how massively fat you are? Unless he's using humor to mask his insecurities. which would be adding a layer of depth to Bustopher Jones, which we haven't seen in any other portrayal, is what I would say if he wasn't then launched into the air and on the way down crunches his cat nuts on the bin. Next we meet Grizabella the Glamour Cat, played by Jennifer Hudson. To give her dues, Memory sung really well, she's very good, but I don't feel sorry for her. In the stage production, Grizabella is a hot mess. Raggedy hair, torn dress, tear-stained makeup. Sis needs to go on Queer Eye. As I've already said, costume adds to the character, and this is one way we see that she's an outcast and been living a rough life, is through her torn up look and how disheveled she looks. It instantly gives her vulnerability. But in the film, Jennifer Hudson looks just as terrible as the rest of the cats, so we lose it. After she sings Memory, we get the original song Beautiful Ghost, written by Taylor Swift and Andrew Lloyd Webber, and it's fine, it's cute, like it fits, I guess, but also its purpose is to completely undercut Memory. Like, one of the lines is, oh, the memories were lost long ago, but at least you had beautiful ghosts. It's basically saying, oh, memories? At least you've got those. I don't have a single happy memory. And it's like, bitch, shut up! Shut up. She's a bit upset. It's like, imagine if in Les Mis, after Marius sang Empty Chairs, Empty Tables, Valjean was like, all your friends are dead? At least you had friends. I never had friends in the first place. I'm going to speed round the rest of the cats because I feel like I've been talking for so long and I'm going to lose my mind if I don't. Old Deuteronomy, played by Judi Dench. One of my favourite parts in the entire film is Judi Dench, after she's watching a performance, this is how she claps. 9 out of 10. Well done, Judy. Gus the Theatre Cat, played by Ian McKellen. Very sad, very cute. Love the song, love the look. Overall, well done, Ian. 10 out of 10. Skimbleshanks the Railway Cat, robbed. That tap dance was fucking everything. I've never seen a cat go so ham. I was going ham. Who needs drugs when you have Skimbleshanks the Railway Cat? 12 out of 10. McCavity and Bomb Ballerina. Taylor Swift kinda slays, but her kitten heels is such a terrible pun, I don't know if I can respect it. Also, she spends the entire number drugging every single person. But it's jazzy, and I like jazz. Well, Taylor Swift, you get 8 out of 10. Idris Elba, you get 8 out of 10 because you're fine. Also, you ended every scene with you going, McCavity! And that was fun. So, Magical Mr. Mistopheles. He's another one they changed the personality of. They make him like really shy and timid, and it's, again, it's in the lyrics. It seems like there's nobody shyer, but actually he's really confident, so it was weird that they did that, but whatever. I felt proud of him when he did the magic tricks, but you were grooming Victoria the entire time. It was really creepy and sexual, and for that, 4 out of 10. Which takes us to the final scene where Judi Dench, out of nowhere, turns and faces the camera and sings the final song to you. That's right, not the cats in front of her, not the people in the row in front of you, not even the person beside you. You. She's coming for you. It's so unnerving, and I loved it. It's also the worst song in the show. The lyrics are terrible, and I always find it funny how seriously everyone has to sing it. They obviously were just like, this is a terrible, stupid song. Fuck it, Judy. Stare at the camera and just sing it out, Louise. I'm unsure exactly how I feel about this movie. On one hand, I'm upset that they cut out so much of what's at the musical's core with the costumes and the dancing. On the other hand, what would be the point in them doing the same thing that's already been done millions of times across the world? It'd be hypocritical of me to say that they should have just done Cats the normal way it's always been done, because Cats was ultimately born out of not wanting to do a musical the same way it's always been done. It's an interpretation of the musical. Not a great one, I do have to say, but it's entertaining, and ultimately, all art's up for interpretation, isn't it? Just because this version of Cats exists doesn't take away the stage show and all its success. In fact, I think it's going to make people appreciate it a lot more. Originally, Disney wanted the rights to T.S. Eliot's poem book so they could do their own version of Cats, but he didn't want to give it to them because he didn't want his characters to be dancing cartoon cats. I think he may be rolling in his grave a little bit, but that's the price you pay for having such a successful and beloved piece of fiction. Everyone wants their shot at bringing it to life. Regardless of an author's vision, people are going to view it the way they want to view it. Random example would be, let's say that, oh, I don't know, the author of a successful children's book series accidentally outs herself as a TERF on Twitter. Maybe their readers are now going to view their characters in a way to purposely spite that author. Ginny Weasley was trans, and there's no doing anything about. Oh wow, it. Bow.
Thank you, my dears.